I stood face to face to the giant electronic box, which contained to what I knew to be an intercom microphone. But before I go on from there, let's go back to when I was 10 years old in 1999 at Springway Elementary School. I was always quiet. I kept to myself. Why would I go through all the agony, the frustration, and the pain of trying to get words out as it would take me like minutes to get out a single sentence? Do any of you ever remember a time like you read out loud in class like you had reading time? I used to dread those times. I would sit in the class as we watched as they went like row by row, and my palms would get sweaty and my heart would start pounding as my turn approached. And I would come to one of the most difficult words, the. And I felt like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, as like Harry had to help him along and said, yeah, the word's the, as he's like, or whatever he said. Yeah, you have to struggle through that, like with the uncertainty of whether I would get through the paragraph. I would just continue on. And I attempted to work with a speech therapist, and she had me try to slow down and read with more of a rhythm, but it didn't really seem to work in the other tactics she tried. But getting back to the large electronic box, I'm not sure exactly where the motivation or drive came from. Someone encouraged me, but they were looking for candidates to run for the class president, and I elected myself to do that. And little did I know, I had to write and give a speech in front of the whole entire school over the intercom. Yeah, so that was pretty nerve-wracking. And I flashed back on times like when previous candidates gave their speeches. They were so eloquent. They did it with such eloquence and ease, and that didn't encourage me very much. So the time came when we walked into the office, and there was the big electronic box with all these buttons and stuff that I didn't really understand. But I knew that middle part was, and if you spoke into that middle part, then the whole entire school could hear you. And it was like the reading experience, except on steroids. And so I watched as the candidates in front of me went up and gave their speeches with such ease. And then my turn came up, and I walked up to the electronic box, and I had a choice. I could either cower and walk away from it, or I could go through and just try my best. And so I walked up to it and read my speech. And if you've seen King's speech, it was kind of like that, like before he had all this training. And afterwards, somebody came up to me and said, "Marvin, were you okay? It sounded like you were crying or something." It's like, yeah, I was okay, I was just struggling. But life is like a conveyor belt in reverse. Because if you cower in fear and never take the next step, you'll move back on the belt automatically. But if you do the bare minimum to just get by, meaning you take one step forward and you hesitate and you slide right back. You take one step forward, you hesitate, you slide right back. But if you have more determination, more will, and go through the resistance regardless of the fear of what somebody else would think, the fear of the uncertainty, and you can power yourself to go from point A to point B. One of my first speeches I talked about sapere videre, and sapere means to know, and videre means to see. So sapere videre is to know how to see, and more specifically is to know how to see what is not already there. And I came across this story that instantly reminded me of sapere videre, and I got pretty excited about it. But it's a story about a young prince. He was approaching his 12th birthday, and his king, which was his father, asked him what he wanted for his birthday, and the son replied, "I want a statue of myself, and I want it placed outside my window in the garden where I can see it every single morning." But his father was confused. He thought, why would my son want a statue? You see, his son was born a hunchback, so he was hunched over all the time. And his father looked at his son, at where he currently was, and he couldn't perceive why his son would want a statue of himself and look at that all the time. And then he tried to convince his son to not want that desire, to not want that wish. But then his son replied, no, I don't want a statue of myself as I am now. I want a statue of myself as I could become, of myself standing up straight with great posture. So his father granted him the wish. And for 8 years, every single day, multiple times, the young prince stood next to the statue with his 4-foot structure, and he stretched with all his might to try to mimic the statue in every single morning without fail. And by his 21st birthday, he was no longer a hunchback. He stood up straight with his head up high, looking up through eye to eye to all who he came in contact with. And it was all because of he didn't see himself as he was, but he saw himself as he could become. We too can do what, or how do you perceive yourself though? Like, we too, just like the young prince, we can mentally picture in our mind a statue of the person that we want to become. And as we walk up to that electronic box, which could be like a job interview, it could be a new business venture, or trying to forgive somebody, a family member or a friend. And with that new focus of ourselves and our abilities, we can power through and do things that we didn't think we could possibly do before. And we can, and truly, we can really surprise ourselves, because life is a conveyor belt in reverse. If we cower in fear and never take the next step, we move backwards on the belt automatically. And if we do the bare minimum to just get by, one step forward, we'll slide right back. One step forward, hesitate, and we slide right back. But if we power through with great determination, then regardless of the resistance, we can certainly do more than we can ever imagine. Thank you.